for coming this afternoon, for joining us. I'm really excited to see all of your beautiful faces, friends, colleagues for many years, new friends, sponsors, our Gen leaders. It's fantastic to have you here in the audience joining us. Today, I want to share a story with you. The story is mine, but in reality, it belongs to many of you. Others that are here today, and others that are not. It's a story about immigration, brute perseverance, creativity, and entrepreneurial spirit. For the last 4 generations, due to economic, social, political challenges, my family has found itself in a position where it's had to emigrate, to leave their homes and their countries, searching for a better life for their children, just like so many of your families have and so many Latinos are doing today. My great-grandparents were Ana and Jose. They were campesinos, farmers, who left a town called Villanueva La Gertrude for better opportunity, and they found that in Cuba. My great-grandfather started a little bodega. That little bodega eventually became a general store, and later, because the fellow campesinos trusted him so much, they gave him like their monthly provisions, he started a community bank. And that little community bank became the Banco Garrigo, and it would have been celebrating its centennial 100 years this year in 2018. My parents were born and they were raised in Cuba. They lived there for 20 happy years before they were forced to flee, literally with just a duffel bag on their backs. They rebuilt their lives in Puerto Rico, and that's where my 4 brothers and I were born. Later, my mom moved us to Miami, and she raised all 4 of us alone on a secretary's salary. That should seem very familiar to many of you. We all lived on the edge of, I guess, what would have been defined as poverty. Yet, as my grandmas taught me, we had great wealth, and I never really felt poor because we had family, we had community that we loved, we had dignity. And I was really lucky because my grandmothers were both teachers. I'm happy now. Back then, not so happy because every Saturday they exercised their teacherhood and they set up a classroom in their living rooms. They would alternate at each of their homes, but it was every single Saturday. And they had Saturday school for us because they were hell-bent that we were going to not forget Spanish, and we were going to learn Spanish and geometry and penmanship and all those great things. Being teachers, they knew education was the key. And they drilled that into us as kids, that your education and what's in your mind can never be taken away. And so as I stand here today, I'm very conscious that I would not be here were it not for the dreams and the strivings of my family. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for the faith that so many have put into me, that have mentored me, that have helped me, that have given me a chance, who determined that just because I was a single mom, I was not going to be a statistic. These people invested in me, and I was determined to prove that their investment was worthwhile. Just like each of you are investing in your community. And believe me, it's really worthwhile. Why do I choose to share my story with you? For one, it's because it's a story that could be told in many different ways. The way I just told it, it's a story of generations of hard work, of creativity, self-determination, the story about power of community and family, of generosity, and of paying it forward. But it could also be told as a story of oppression, the xenophobia that our family faced when they arrived in the U.S., and it could also be told as a story about privilege, about upward mobility that is accessible if you're a lighter-skinned immigrant, but not always to Afro-Latinos or to Black Americans, which is why it's important and we cannot ignore race. And it's why the way that we tell our stories matters, especially now. as fathers are being deported because of stories that portray them as bad hombres, as women are sexually assaulted because of stories that say they are asking for it. Lives are lost every day because of stories that say black and brown men are criminals. These stories underscore everyday acts of oppression that perpetuate systemic inequality. And much of what we thought was guaranteed, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is now being tested and it's being challenged. And we're here today because philanthropy plays a critical role in challenging the inequities that persist and in changing the stories that contribute to this inequity. And it's the reason why I decided to join Hispanics in Philanthropy, because we have a 35-year track record of changing the story, of changing the narrative about Latinos in the country, of showing the world who we really are. A community of generous, resilient, smart, spirited individuals who deserve investment and opportunity. For 35 years, HIP has been building this space for Latinos within philanthropy and has been advocating for investment in organizations that are too often overlooked, our grassroots nonprofits that are in the trenches building power and civic engagement on the ground. And this took visionary leadership by people like Luz Vega Marquis, Douglas Patiño, Herman Gallegos, Erisa Arevalo. Growing HIP to what it is today, an institution that has propelled countless Latinos to senior leadership roles in philanthropy, an institution that has invested more than $50 million in Latino-led and Latino-serving nonprofits, took courage and determination by its fearless president, who many of you know, my predecessor, Diana Campoamor, who was the president for 27 years. I am so privileged to follow in her footsteps. She has been a phenomenal leader. I have learned so much from her as I have from Nelson, who you just heard from me. I think many of them are here. You'll hear from Luz in a couple of minutes, but I know that many of our board of directors are here, and I guess I would like to ask them to stand up so that they can be recognized, because without their deep commitment, no, Rafael, I see their board here. Come on, don't be shy. I'm so grateful for their leadership, for all the work that they have been doing, and for creating the space and this voice for Hispanics in philanthropy. And it really gives me energy to continue this mission, to continue the strengthening of Latino equity, voice, and leadership. Now, many of you know that in January I started a listening tour, and I'm at the midpoint right now. So far, I've traveled to 14 cities. I have another 14 to go. I'll be doing that by the end of May. And as I'm meeting and learning, working with many of you that are doing this work, addressing poverty, dismantling inequality, ending structural racism, I'm seeing how you're responding to the disasters that are coming at us at increasing frequency, and supporting our communities, supporting our workers, our entrepreneurs, investing in health and education, providing the backbone to support our immigrants. And I'm also hearing about the innovative ideas and seeing them in action across the country. I'm very pleased that you're going to have the opportunity to see many of those examples at the conference in these 2 days. But what's happening for me since I first began this journey, which actually started last summer, is that I was originally fueled by the injustice that I saw all around me. But now, through the 14 cities that I have been visiting, to meeting with many of you, I'm really empowered, and I'm empowered by the hope and the opportunity that I see in your resilience and your strength that we're exhibiting even in these moments of global uncertainty. And I believe that through the power of conversation, through the power of dialogue that each of you are having in your communities, that we're bridging the diverse agendas, and that we are, despite the challenges at our doorsteps, we are getting ready for these things at this very moment, and we are ready, and the times call for bold action. I believe that we are ready for this action, and you will see that this afternoon. You will see courageous foundation philanthropists who are taking a stand, who are leading with courage, knowing that we must be willing to do this in ways that we have never considered before. Because every week there is a new assault on our communities. Just last week, the proposed citizenship question, the 2020 census. It's so dangerous and it's so un-American. Yesterday, the deployment of the National Guard to the U.S. border to strike fear in the heart of our immigrant communities. As heads of foundations, I implore, please remember, we don't just fund projects, we need to fund power. We need to fund communities. We have the obligation to take action. Right now, we must ensure that every single person in every community across the country, regardless of race, ethnicity, immigrant status, is seen and is heard. This all starts with the 2020 census. I believe that philanthropy can and should be used to dismantle inequality. This must be done within our sector, and it must be done in the world. And I'll repeat that. It must be done within the sector and the world. That's the key to strengthening our collective power. And as the new president of Hispanics in Philanthropy, I'm working my darndest to help usher in a new era of philanthropy for the Latino community, one that is by us, it's for us, and it's about us. That is why I took this job. I believe we can do this together. We have the generosity. We have the buying power, $1.4 trillion, and that's growing. And as philanthropists and givers, we must and we can mobilize. We must and we can invest in our own institutions. And what's key is that each of us has the power to be a philanthropist. We can all be givers. People like me, like you, my abuela, my daughter. And the time to affirm our leadership is now. This great country was built on the diversity of many cultures, of people like my great-grandparents, Jose and Ana, entrepreneurial immigrants, whose hard work and their generosity helped create the many community institutions that we benefit from today. But we can't play from the old playbook. We must do more. We need to lift our collective voice. We have the potential to influence funders across America and to really create philanthropic change across every city, across the Americas. It may seem daunting, but the injustices that are facing our society, we can address them. We can address them if we harness our collective power, and if we assert our voice, we as Latinos can take our position in American society with the power that we deserve. The stakes are higher and higher and higher every day. So I hope that each of you, by being here today, you're demonstrating that you will fight with us to create a more equitable world, make a new generation of Latino philanthropy and philanthropists a reality. After all, our conference theme is my call to action, and I think it's for all of us. Let's invest in leaders, justice, and opportunity for all. And on that note, a thank you to all the people who have invested in HIP and in today's conference and our conference sponsors. Without you, none of this could have happened. And so there's a big thank you. I don't know if we have logos of our sponsors, but I'll read them out. There's the Marguerite Casey Foundation, Casey Family Programs, the Annie E. Casey Foundation, the Barr Foundation, the California Endowment, the James Irvine Foundation, the Medtronic Foundation, Southwest Airlines, Bank of America, California Community Foundation, Edwin Gold Foundation, Kaiser Permanente. Thank you all. Thank you.